Hey guys, it's Matt Zudwig here with yet another video. I, for some reason, I just feel this overwhelming burden to continue this dialogue that I started with my video on Saturday, I think it was, about offense. And I don't know why this burden is so strong in me, but I'm just thinking about it constantly. So I really feel like I need to share this. So if you want to hang out with me for a minute, that'd be awesome. Because I think this is probably for you. I think it's probably for everybody. That this is a good thing to talk about. My video Saturday, if you haven't watched it, please go watch that because this will make more sense if you see that. It's 10 minutes long, 10 minutes of your life, and I think it'll be worth it. But I want to continue this dialogue because I had some really amazing feedback. In fact, I had some really amazing conversations as a result of my video, from a number of people, but, from people who have struggled with offense over wounds from their dads, which is enormous. I mean, that dads have the ability to create enormous wounds in their kids. And sometimes in fact, most of the time, I think it's not intentional. They, they're just working with the tools they have. In fact, my dad is amazing. I love my dad so much, and he's been an amazing dad for all intents and purposes. But my dad wasn't perfect. He made mistakes when I was growing up. Let's see, where do I want to go with this? I do want to dialogue about this, and this wasn't even something I was going to dialogue about. But as amazing as my dad is and was while I was growing up, there were issues there. My dad walked away from his relationship with God for a while when I was growing up. I watched my mom and dad's marriage struggle when I was growing up. My dad left us a couple times just for, I don't know, a week or two at a time, maybe, from my memories anyways, and that was tough to deal with. But a couple years ago, and bear in mind, I have an amazing relationship with my dad. I really always have. I never in my life doubted that my dad loved me with all of his heart. But a couple years ago, my dad said something to me that really impacted me. And he said, I know I wasn't a perfect dad for you when you were growing up, but I want you to know that I tried my best and I did the best with the tools I had. And that was really telling. It made me, it gave me some revelation about a lot of things. Mainly that not everybody has good tools. A lot of times we're just going off what we've seen growing up. And so that's why things sort of get passed down generation to generation. Even though people see those traits as bad, they're so ingrained that a lot of times, unless you make a very conscious effort to not be a certain way, those things are just passed on just because it becomes a part of you. So I appreciated my dad saying that so much. I really did. But honestly, that's not even what I was going to talk about. In my video on Saturday, I covered a few things about offense. And just to share with you what gives me credibility to even speak on this is that I've spent the last 50 years as a professional mistake maker. I've been on both sides of offense. I've offended so many people. And most of the time it's not been on purpose. There has been times when I was younger and hurting before in my BC days before Christ, and I know I'm speaking to everybody. I'm not speaking, to just people who believe in the Bible and who follow Jesus. That's where I am personally, but I know I'm not speaking to everybody, so I'm not going to try to shove my faith in your face. That's not what this is all about. But it's such a part of me that it's bound to come out here and there. So bear with me. If you don't follow my faith, that's okay. That's okay. We're all in different places in our lives. So that's not what this is about. So stick with me, and don't be offended by that. Seriously. But one thing I want you to recognize, and I did touch base with this in my video on Saturday, is that we see things through a lens of our past, of our experiences, of our hurts, of wounds. All of those things are what we see life through the lens of. And some of the wounds that we have, honestly, some of them we don't even know we have. There's certain things in me, not so much anymore, but once in a while, that bring out a really strong emotion or a really strong defense for some reason. And, I just kind of figured that was just the way I was, for a long time. And somebody challenged me one time to look at it this way. If I have a really strong reaction to something, especially negative reaction to something, that's something I really need to dive into and explore and find out, why is my reaction so strong about that? If somebody says a certain thing, or in the past, if somebody had said a certain thing to me and I had a really strong defense, or just immediately was up in arms and ticked off, and usually probably took what they said in the wrong way, it's because I'm seeing that through the lens of a wound that I have. So really, if you have a strong reaction about something, before you react and say things to people that you're probably going to regret, really try to take some time and look inside and see why you have that reaction. Because I think that's a big thing as far as offense goes. One of the questions, let me touch base on this first. As far as father wounds, man, there's books written on father wounds. John Eldredge has an amazing book on father wounds. I think it's called Fathered by God. Super good book. And I don't think you have to be a Christian to read this book. There's something you can take away from it, regardless of whether you're a Christian or not. So don't think of it that way. But one thing that I know has helped a lot of people is write a letter to your dad. And I'm not even saying necessarily give it to your dad. Your dad could be passed away. You could not have a relationship at all with your dad. Kind of use your best judgment on that, whether you should even give it to your dad. But writing a letter to your dad, there's a healing process in there, and be truthful, let it all out. And that's why it might not be a good idea to share with your dad, but just write a letter and let it all out. And the other thing that I think is another major healing thing is write a letter from your dad to yourself. I know that sounds crazy, but trust me, there is a healing that will take place when you do that. And try to see your dad from the point of a person who's wounded himself, writing this letter to you. Because, man, as human beings, every single one of us has wounds. We don't get through this life without getting wounds. I feel like I've been a really good dad to my kids, but I've created wounds. And man, for me, probably one of the biggest and most practical things as far as keeping a heart connection with my kids is when I blow it, I apologize to my kids. I don't want those wounds. I thought I had created a number of wounds in my son. And I expressed to him a couple years ago how sorry I was for, um, the times that I've failed him. And he said, Dad, I don't feel like I have any wounds from you. And man, praise God, because I think he feels that way. Not that there weren't wounds created, but because I was quick to apologize. Don't ever be afraid to apologize to your kids. As parents, we're learning how to be a parent just like they're learning how to be a child or an independent adult or whatever. So there's a couple things in there. And if you're hanging out with me in this video, I appreciate it. I do think there's a lot of valuable things that I have to say. And a lot of the wisdom that I have are from screwing up. I hate to admit it, but I'll be vulnerable with you. I have messed up in a lot of ways, but I've learned from those mistakes. Now, does that mean I'm never going to make mistakes again? No way. I still make mistakes all the time. In fact, this whole video series started because I was called out for offending somebody. And I don't know how much of it was my fault or how much of it I honestly don't remember. And it doesn't matter at this point. What matters is that we were able to talk about it, and healing and restoration has taken place. So I did make a couple notes here of things I do want to touch on. So if this video is long and you can't hang out with me, I understand. But I think it's going to be good. So I touched on the lens that you're seeing things through. Somebody asked me, do I need to demand or even ask for an apology from somebody to forgive them? And I would say definitely not. I have people that have hurt my feelings. And bear in mind, I'm coming from a place where for a lot of my life, I was really easily offended, very easily offended. In fact, when my wife and I first got married, now my parents, my mom and my dad, are both amazing. I can't stress that enough. And I thank God for them. But when my wife and I were first married, for some reason, maybe it was just all the emotions of, being newlyweds or what, but we both were feeling offended about a couple things with my mom and dad, and so we wrote them letters, which in hindsight was the stupidest thing ever, to write these letters and send them to them, but we did. And I had so much regret about that. But it was just immaturity on our part. We were young, we were immature, we just did a stupid thing. Fortunately, my parents were much more mature than us, and although their feelings were very hurt by the things that we said in these letters, they called and said, we need to talk this out. So we made a date that we were going to go over to their house, and we did, and we talked it all out, and it was really good. But in hindsight, that was really dumb of us. It was just immature. So a lot of times, we have to recognize that a lot of things we get offended about are really just because we're immature in certain areas. And I'm not saying that out of somebody that hasn't experienced that. Believe me, I'm still immature. In fact, I was having a conversation with a buddy the other night, and I said, he actually dialogued with me after seeing my video and let me know how offended he was with me about a certain thing that happened years ago that he got over. But I had no idea that what I had said to him, I don't even remember saying it, but obviously I did. He's not a lying person. He did admit that he saw it through the lens of something very hurtful that he was going through at the time. And man, we had just a good healing conversation. I'm so thankful that we did. If for no reason for posting that video the other day was to have that conversation with my friend, it was amazing. Now I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, I'll go on. I'm gonna wing this. Good thing I'm not live. But anyways, one of the other things, I was talking about immaturity. So we were talking about the fact that, this was 12 years ago or whatever, and we've both matured a lot since then. And one of the things I said, I'm going to be 50 years old in another month or two. Um, but I said, I hope to God that when I'm 70 years old, I still look back on when I'm 50 years old and say, oh my gosh, I was so immature then. Hopefully, I've matured a lot more in the next 20 years, just like I have in the last 20 years. So, a lot of it has to do with maturity. And the sooner you can recognize that, the better. So maturity and through the lens that you're seeing things through, those are two things to bear in mind. But somebody the other day said, do I need to tell the person that I was offended by? Or do I need to demand an apology in order to forgive, or ask for an apology in order to forgive? No, you do not need to ask for an apology. In a lot of cases, the person that you're offended by probably never meant it, probably doesn't even know it. I had a lady years ago come up to me in church, and she said, I just have to let you know that I forgive you. And I was just like, forgive me for what? I don't even know what I do. And she proceeded to tell me this whole story of something I had done, completely unintentional on my part, but she was mad about it and I had no clue. And she had a hard time forgiving me, but she was able to forgive me. And so she put this burden on me of that I needed to be forgiven that I didn't even know about. So she didn't need to tell me that. Really, if she could have dealt with that on her own, I think that would have been better. Or maybe dialoguing in me with in a way that would have been better, rather than just saying, I just want you to know that I've forgiven you. That I I know people have done that, and that's just not a good way to do it. Which kind of brings me to another point. There are certain ways, and I'm telling you this from experience. I'm telling you this from things that I've learned from screwing up, and also things that I've learned from reading and taking classes. And man, my wife and I have been in every marriage class I think that has ever been offered, and we've learned so much from these marriage classes on marriage and just communication and relationships in general. But you don't always have to tell the person that you've been offended by. And if you do, good communication is really the key here. If you're going to approach somebody that has offended you and you really need to talk to them, approach it in a way that is very, that's going to be non-defensive. That's not going to get them in a defensive position right away. And there's ways you can do this. You can say, listen, there was a time a while back that you said something that, and when you said it, it made me feel really hurt, or it made me feel a certain way. And you can express it that way, like they call these I feel statements, where you're not telling somebody they did something wrong. You're telling them that when they did something, it made you feel a certain way. This is a very non-defensive way to approach somebody, and it works. Man, I don't think approaching a situation like that has ever failed me. So that's a good thing. I feel statements, and it's not saying, you know what, I feel like you were a jerk when you did that. That's not an I feel statement. It's you said this to me one time, and I felt this way. It's not you said this to me and you made me feel this way. It's not a I feel statement. It's when you said that, I felt like this. I felt hurt, or I felt angry, or I felt disrespected, or I felt dishonored. All of those things are good to say. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Good communication. Another thing is being an aggressive listener. Usually when we're kind of when we're already defensive about something and somebody's telling us, and especially if they're telling us in a way that's even making us react more, we're not even listening to them. We're just thinking of what we're going to say next. We're trying to defend ourselves. If you can get off of that crazy cycle of trying to defend yourself and the cycle of feeling disrespected, and get on the intent of really, really hearing what they're trying to say, that's going to bring you miles ahead. And one thing my wife and I learned a long time ago, and we have used very successfully, is what's called the speaker listener technique, where when she is telling me something, and this is the way it started for us, we learned, okay, if I'm the one speaking, then I'm going to have a certain object. Let's say it's a salt and pepper shaker. If whoever has the salt shaker gets to be the one speaking, the other person cannot speak. Only the person that has the object can speak. So, if you have the object, you are allowed to speak. And then when you're done, when you're completely done speaking, you give the other person this object. As you get better at this, you won't need the object. It is kind of weird, but it works. So when you're done speaking, you give the other person the object. And the very first thing they are required to do is say, "This is what I hear you saying," or "This is what I heard you say." And and then they proceed to tell you what they heard you say. Because oftentimes when we're saying something, the other person is hearing something very different. My wife and I used this, years ago for the first time, and it kept us from getting in a massive argument because we were having a disagreement. We were both mad. It was heated, and we're like, okay, we're going to use this technique. We see if we can get out of this. So we did. My wife had the object. She said, okay, here's what I'm going to say. She said the whole thing. She gave it to me. I said, here's what I hear you saying. So I expressed what I heard her saying, and then I gave the object back to her, and she had the opportunity to say, yes, that's what I was saying, or no, that is not what I was saying. And her answer was, no, that is not what I was saying at all. So then she has another opportunity to explain it a different way. And for us, explaining it a different way, and then me getting the object back and saying, okay, now this is what I heard you say. And then the second time she was like, yes, that's what I was saying. I got to hear her heart by literally being a very active listener, not thinking about what I was going to say, not being defensive, but actively, aggressively listening to her heart and what she had to say with her words, her heart posture behind it, all of those things. So I would invite you to try that sometime, whether with your spouse or whether with a relationship with your kids or anybody that you're struggling to get past a certain thing with. That's a really good communication method. One more thing I want you to think about, and maybe there'll be more. I don't know. I've gone on 23 minutes so far. Holy smokes. If you have hung with me this long, you deserve a gold star. Give me your address. I'll send you a gold star. But anyways, 99% of the time, just this one thing is going to help you. Think of the person that you're offended by in this light. Think of them as a person that is a good-hearted person that doesn't mean to do you harm, because 99% of the time that is the case. We get offended by people and we think they are just such a mean person. They're just a jerk and a low life or whatever, but most of the time they're not. They're a good-hearted person, just like you are probably a good-hearted person that doesn't want to hurt somebody, that doesn't want to wound somebody and have a bad relationship. We're human beings. We blow it. We make mistakes. We have wounds. We see things through the lens of our wounds. All of these things. People are good-hearted in general. So don't go into something thinking that person is a mean, bad-hearted person, because almost every time they're not. They don't intend to hurt you. And sometimes when people are hurt, especially if they've been hurt by you and you're anywhere near them, their whole countenance and their whole posture is going to change, and they won't be happy-go-lucky. They're going to come across like they're mad or mean. And usually that's a really good sign that they have a wound from somebody, but probably from you. So, understand that going into it too. If somebody's being mean to you, not only are they probably hurting, it's possible you're the one that hurt them. Man, I know I'm going really long with this video, but this is good. This is good. This is dialogue that if nobody watches this, I don't care, because this is something that's on my heart really heavy and I have to get it off regardless. So here you go. I want to share a story with you real quick about something that had a big impact in my life. I'm a fly fishing guide, as a lot of you guys know. And when I was really early on in my guiding career, there was another guide on the river that was just mean, just downright mean to me all the time. Every single day when I passed this person on the river, they had some snide remark to say, just kind of a put down towards me, and to try to make me look stupid in front of my clients. And it was just frustrating for me. It's like I dreaded passing this person during the day in my boat because I knew some stupid remark was coming up. And this went on for a long time. And so, you've heard the phrase, kill them with kindness. I wasn't trying to kill this person, but I really, for me, because of my faith, I really felt God saying to me, you know what? I want you just to show God's love to this person, no matter what they do to you. Try to be hard to offend. And I would invite you to be hard to offend. Really make that your goal, to be really hard to offend. And we live in this culture that people are offended so easy. It's ridiculous how quickly people are offended. And I was there. I'm not saying that to put you down if you are that way, because I was there myself. I had somebody one time say, man, grow some hair on your chest and quit being such a sissy, and I was offended by that even. But honestly, make it your goal to really aggressively be hard to offend. And maybe I'll touch on that in another video on how I've done that in myself, because it's been a world of difference. I really am hard to offend nowadays, especially compared to what I used to be. Thank God. Let's see, where was I with that? Oh yeah, that story. So this fishing guide, man, he was just such a jerk to me. So for, man, the longest time, I would just pass him and he would say something mean to me and I would say something nice to him. And I meant it, maybe not at first. Maybe it was more like hey, have a great day, but the longer I did that, the more it became honest. Just wishing him a good day, and I hope he has a good day with his clients and good luck, and he'd say something mean to me and I'd say something nice to him. At the time, I was still doing a lot of my antique style signs and artwork and stuff. And so I actually went to his house one day and gave him a couple pieces of my work and said, just thought you would enjoy this. And I was just purposeful in being kind to this person. And I'd love to say, man, he turned around and all of a sudden we were best buddies and he was nice to me. It never happened. And he just was always a jerk to me. But one day, it was Father's Day, and man, I get choked up even thinking about this, really. It was Father's Day, and I was scrolling through Facebook, and, he had sent me a friend request at one time, and I'm like, oh, that's the last thing I want, is to be friends with him on Facebook. But I did. I accepted it, and sure enough, he was making stupid comments, even on all my Facebook posts, But for some reason, I just let it go on, part of this, just being kind no matter what. And so he, at one point, it was Father's Day. I was looking on Facebook in the news feed, and for a split second, he posted something and he immediately took it off. For whatever reason, he took it right back off. But I saw it, and there's a reason I saw it. And what his post said was, oh, by the way, happy Father's Day to the crappiest dad that ever lived. And I don't know if I was the only person that saw that post, but I'm so thankful that I did, because it gave me revelation as to why he was the way he was. He was a wounded person. He had a crappy relationship with his dad, no doubt full of wounds from his father, and he was a hurting person. And and man, what that did for me, he was still a jerk to me. You know, and it didn't matter to me anymore, because all of a sudden I had compassion for him. I saw that post and it gave me compassion for this person and the way that he was. And, we never had a relationship at all. He was always a jerk to me, and he ended up passing away sometime later. And I hope he made peace with God at some point, but I don't know. But I do know that on my end, I'm thankful that I saw that post and was able to get compassion for him. So if there's somebody that is just constantly offending you, you don't have to have it out with them necessarily. I would invite you to dialogue with them in a good way, like we've talked about, if it's possible, if you think it's the right thing to do, but you don't have to really forgive them. I forgave this person, and I went so far as to pray for this person and have compassion for them, and I'm so thankful for that, because in the end, it was good for my heart. It was good for my soul to not be carrying around this grudge and offense against this person. So no doubt I have offended so many people. I've heard from several people that I've offended just since my last video, not offended by my video, but people that have been offended by something I did in my past. And, geez, I'm 32 minutes in. That's a long video. This is going to take forever to post too. But this has been worth it for me. And if nobody's left watching this 32 minutes in, it's okay. This has been good for me. You know what? I do have another video I want to post, because there's still stuff on my heart that I want to share about this. Man, maybe I should start a podcast. So anyways, I hope I didn't bore you too bad. And if you hung out with me this long, you deserve a sticker or something. So thank you so much. And I will share another video, because there's more on my heart, but I can't make this video any longer than this. This is bad. Nobody's going to watch this. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. Love you.